Lyle Goldstein just published an article in Time magazine titled "The US Must Be Beware of Taiwan's Reckless Leader." He argues that President William Lai is dangerously provocative and that Washington should distance itself from Taiwan. That piece is getting traction, but I think it's completely wrong. In this video, I'll explain why. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Freedom is Not Free channel. My name is Stan. First, let's look at who Goldstein is and why his so-called expertise deserves a closer look. Then let's unpack his think tank's ideology because it directly shapes his conclusions. And finally, I'll explain why defending Taiwan is absolutely in America's core national interest, militarily, economically, and strategically. Goldstein calls himself a China-Russia expert, director of the Asia program at the Washington think tank called Defense Priorities. But when I went through his X account, what I found was not expertise, it was amplification of propaganda. He repeatedly shares content straight out of Russian state and Chinese state outlets. One of his posts quotes Russian sources claiming the West will flood Ukraine with weapons and prolong the war. Another one praises Moscow's rational approach. He has also echoed talking points from the Global Times, the Chinese Communist Party propaganda paper. I think this is not analysis, this is just repetition of authoritarian narratives. Real expertise should mean critical distance, not serving as an echo chamber for the Kremlin and Beijing. And when I read his Time article, I see the same pattern. He repeats China's favorite framing, that Taiwan's new president is radical, that the United States should rein him in, and that Taiwan isn't worth defending. This mirrors Beijing's position almost word for word. So I have to ask, is this really independent scholarship or just soft propaganda dressed up as realism? Goldstein works at Defense Priorities, a libertarian-ish isolationist think tank founded by people close to Rand Paul and the Koch network. Its entire mission is to push for American retrenchment. Fewer overseas commitments, lower defense spending, less engagement abroad. And that's their right, they can hold whatever position they want to. But it also means Goldstein's conclusions were almost written before he typed the first sentence. Of course, he's going to argue that Taiwan isn't worth defending. That's what his institution has created to say. But his argument also ignores current US strategy. Under the first Trump administration and continuing today, Washington is doing the opposite. First of all, Washington is strengthening deterrence in Indo-Pacific. It's building the first island chain network with Japan, the Philippines, and Taiwan. It's expanding joint exercises and deploying Marines in the region. Goldstein's piece reads like it's stuck in a 1990s isolationist bubble. It doesn't reflect the reality of the US military posture, nor the bipartisan consensus that China, not the Middle East, is now the primary strategic focus. And now let's go to the substance. Goldstein claims Taiwan is not a vital US interest because it's not a formal treaty ally. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of what vital interest means. First of all, and the most important thing, that Taiwan sits at the center of the first island chain. It's a chain of islands running from Japan down through the Philippines. If Taiwan falls under Beijing's control, that entire defensive line collapses. China would gain deep water access to the Pacific, bypassing the island barrier that currently contains its navy. From there, the PLA could threaten Okinawa, Guam, and US sea lanes, even Hawaii. Losing Taiwan wouldn't just be symbolic, it would change the balance of power across the Indo-Pacific. Secondly, don't forget about deterrence and credibility. If Washington abandons Taiwan, every ally from Tokyo to Manila will question US resolve. Deterrence relies on credibility, and when America says we stand with our partners, that promise only works if it's kept when tested. If the United States walks away from a thriving democracy under attack, allies might start hedging towards China, and that would be the real strategic catastrophe, not defending Taiwan. The third thing is technology and economy. Taiwan also matters because it powers the global economy. Taiwanese companies produce over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors, the chips that run AI, smartphones, and even US fighter jets. And if Beijing controlled that supply chain, America's tech and defense sectors would be vulnerable overnight. So yes, Taiwan is a core US interest, not only militarily, but economically and technologically. Goldstein focuses almost entirely on Taiwan's vulnerabilities, limited airfields, missile exposure, or lack of patriots. He uses those weaknesses to argue for disengagement. But a serious strategist would argue for strengthening deterrence, not surrendering because deterrence is hard. He also dismisses Taiwan's democracy by labeling its president reckless. That framing is paternalistic. Taiwan is not a rogue province, it's a self-governed democracy of 23 million people. Calling the elected leader reckless because he states his country's sovereignty is the kind of language Beijing loves to hear, and exactly what Time just published. The article even suggests Washington should warn Taiwan privately to tone down independence talk. That's absurd. It's not America's job to silence democracies to keep dictators comfortable. So here's the bottom line. Lyle Goldstein presents himself as a China-Russia expert, but his record shows consistent alignment with those regimes' narratives. His think tank promotes a pre-decided ideology of American withdrawal, and his argument that Taiwan isn't vital ignores everything about 21st century strategy, the first island chain, the semiconductor economy, and the US commitment to a free Indo-Pacific. Pretending that disengagement equals peace is naive. It doesn't prevent war, it invites aggression. And if the United States truly wants stability in Asia, it needs to strengthen its partnership with Taiwan and not rein it in. That's how deterrence works, and that's how peace is preserved. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please leave a comment, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Do you think that articles like this reflect naivete or something else entirely? My name is Stan, and see you in the next one. Remember that freedom is not free.